I know that you support by what I read online. You support the cohesiveness and the keeping together and the not diluting things like IDEA, REAP, education funding for the schools. Those items, the first two items, are about equality and equity of education for all people, including those who require special education, those people who are disabled and are taught in our public schools, but there needs to be rules for that. And
Mhm.
right now, with the education department being dismantled and special education being sent out to somewhere else, the Justice Department or whatever it is, anyway, um, they're in kind of an emergency. I have a soft spot for teachers because several people that I was close to were teachers, and they are absolutely instrumental, and they are woefully underpaid. But to interfere with their actual teaching, and we could only just talk about this one area because it's so lengthy. There's so much interference. But speak about the idea that special education students and those who need a little bit more help in school are going to be impacted and are currently being impacted by the changes that have been made.
Yeah, this is this is something that really it comes home for me for a number of reasons, both my own childhood, my own education growing up, my the career I had in the Navy where I lived in places like Pensacola, Florida, Meridian, Mississippi, but also San Diego, California, and Lemoore, California, and Japan and
Right.
Brussels. I grew up in Northern Virginia. So I've seen very different education systems across the country. And then obviously I've seen what other nations do with their education system. What I don't agree with is that you should not receive a different education in our country simply based off of your zip code. You should be able to you should be able to have the type of education, regardless of where you are, there should be equity. It's the way that our future is built. One of the things that drives me absolutely crazy is this notion that we just leave education up to the states and we have no say and we have no influence on that. If that's the case, then we're not actually a cohesive nation because we want tax revenue from those kids once they grow up. Well,
Mhm.
I would like them to have an equitable education so that they can provide for their families and get jobs that are, satisfactory to them and also satisfactory to the nation at large.
Yeah.
But we do this thing where one side says, well, no, education is wholly a state issue. It's up to the states. Well, if you live in Meridian, Mississippi, which does not have the greatest funding for education because it's again based on property taxes and it's a
Plastic
low,
country.
yeah, and it's a low property tax state. Well, we say, well, if you don't like it, then move. How is an 8-year-old going to move? How is a 12-year-old going to move? How is a parent who lives in Meridian, Mississippi, who would love to go to a state where it might have a better opportunity or education for their child, but they can't, they're barely, holding on where they live. And again, it's a view by people who have assets and resources that will just pick up and go. It's completely looking at the world through a singular wealthy lens. Um, and this is my take. I don't want us to be viewing education for kids through any other lens than we need to ensure that the future of our country and the education of the kids in our country is enough that we can survive and we can increase our capabilities in this country. And it starts with education. It's the engine that drives it. And so I want to see improved education funding. I want to see funding for kids so that they're not the ones who are struggling in these families because I care, I help care for another family, and they are very, very poor. But those kids, I mean, they want to learn. And so, if they need books, if they need support, I want us to provide it. And I want us to do it at a national level so that we're not just relying on our underpaid teachers to have to take on that burden as well. If we're going to be smart about this, we need to invest. I want to take a dollar figure to this. It's an investment,
Yeah.
not, it is an investment in our future, and the kids are the ones who are going to take care of you and I
Yeah.
in the very near future. That's how we survive and it's how we grow. And something that it really is, it's the greatest investment that our country makes, and we are cutting it left and right. Um, you know,
Wrapped up in all of that, too, wrapped up in all of that is the weakening of Title I and Title IX,
and
changes that are made in those to take away things that otherwise have been helping children and teachers.
yeah.
Um,
And we need more teachers. We can support teachers through this process as well. The this is going to jump into, sort of the later section of education, but if we want to grow teachers, then we need to make it affordable to be a teacher. We need to, help them with their loan costs when they went to school, because with the cost of college these days, compared to a teacher's salary, these two things do not marry up. The cost of university today, you need to be making six figures just to seem to pay down the debt that you acquired for the degree you got. And we're not paying our teachers that. I'm very adamant about the fact that we need to make sure that teachers can afford to be teachers. And whether that is a loan forgiveness program for people, for teachers who go into it, whether it is supplementary funding so that we can pay teachers a wage that draws more teachers in. We need more men in the teaching world, not
right.
just women. And then we need to look at university and the cost of university in this country. We haven't raised the Stafford loan rates since 2008. So there are people who go to school, and after 2 years of school, they're out of federal loan guarantee. Well, what do? They end up having to go to the off market. They have to go to, predatory lending groups.
Private
And now we
borrowing.
start, yeah, and now we start looking at the difference in, family wealth. It starts to become even, a wealth issue
Yeah.
where certain types of students get one type of loan because their family had greater wealth versus another family. And so we can look at even a black-white divide. A white student who took loans out in college, 10 years after they graduate, they owe roughly 47% of their original loan value. If you take a black person, a black man, 10 years after they graduate, they often owe 114% of their original loan value. It's
Right.
not because they're not trying to pay it down, it's because of the predatory lending that happens to families who don't have generational wealth or any wealth whatsoever. And so there's a lot of things that we need to put in place that correct this. And the first thing from an education, college level, I think bringing the Stafford loan and increasing the rates and ensuring that we can subsidize those loans both when they're in college and after based off of income rates.
I agree.